Hey everyone, thank you for joining me today. My name is Angus and I am live streaming from the Stryd headquarters in Boulder, Colorado. And today we're talking about shoe testing. So recently we did an awesome test with elite marathoner Luis Orta, and we used the Stryd Duo technology along with Stryd Footpath to determine the optimal shoes and kind of quantify the differences across shoes for Luis. So the itinerary for today, we're going to be talking about first the benefits of shoe testing and how to use Stryd Duo for shoe testing. We're going to take a closer look at the protocol we followed for that shoe test in the Stryd Performance Lab here. We're going to be talking about the analysis of Luis Orta's shoe data and how we kind of determined which shoes were optimal for what scenarios for Luis. And then we're going to talk about how you can do this at home. So with the Stryd Performance Lab, it's all about taking the insights and learnings we have here in the Stryd Lab, and then telling how you can apply the same techniques to get more out of your data at home. And then, of course, we do have that full video on Luis Orta's YouTube channel. So if you want to check out that full video, what the tests look like, you can check that out as well. So as I said, we performed this test in the Stryd Performance Lab here in the Stryd headquarters. The Stryd Performance Lab, we have the metabolic testing, the lactate testing, of course, adding in the Stryd technology for Stryd Footpath and other, left-right balance metrics and other biomechanical metrics such as the leg spring stiffness, impact loading rate. We can get a really comprehensive test done here in the Stryd Performance Lab. And as I mentioned, Stryd Duo is a core part of the test. This really gives us a testing that you can take from the lab out to the road when you have Stryd Duo. So by placing a next-gen stride on each side of the body, being able to take that not only in the lab and out to the road to collect performance metrics out there can be really key to testing. And Stryd Duo also tracks the Stryd Footpath. And the Stryd Footpath is basically the motion of the foot out in the field, and we capture this in 360-degree perspective, kind of give you that 3D visualization, being able to see how your foot moves in all different planes and alignments, and being able to see that out in the real world can be really adding some key insight here. And as we know, there's 5 key use cases of the Stryd Footpath. The first is that injury, being able to manage injury risk, being able to quantify subtle changes, whether you're in overtraining zones or whether you're going through a recovery process, to kind of monitor how you're responding to increases in training load or recovery from injury. The second is fatigue, being able to see what kind of changes fatigue has on your Stryd Footpath. The next is drills, quantify and visualize the impact of drills on your footpath to determine if they're providing the intended benefits. Footwear, as we're going to be diving deep into today, observe how different shoe choices reshape your footpath and contribute towards and impact your running. And then finally, performance. As your performance improves, as your symmetry improves, and you become a more symmetrical runner through training, visualize your footpath and determine how personalized indicators of how your footpath changes your performance. So first, we're going to be talking about the benefits of shoe testing with the help of Stryd Duo here. So the first benefit is finding the right shoe for you. And we all know, we're runners, we have different sets of shoes. We know what shoes are advantageous for what conditions. Sometimes certain shoes feel better on certain running surfaces, such as, I like this shoe for road, I like this shoe for trail, I like this shoe for track. With the help of Stryd Duo and Stryd Footpath, really helping confirm those feelings. Additionally, different run types, I have this shoe for long runs, I have this shoe for speed work. Stryd Footpath also helps confirm that this shoe is most optimal for this type of training. Helping confirm your feelings on comfort and performance, that can be key as well. Just knowing that one shoe, for example, performs better but doesn't feel the best. Are the performance benefits worth the discomfort? That's something you can weigh with the help of Stryd Footpath. And then, taking all these together, training surfaces, different runs, and then comfort and performance, that allows you to make that personalized shoe selection. So point 2 here of using the Stryd Footpath is visualize how shoes impact performance. So of course you can have the data You can have the second by second data, whether that's the leg spring stiffness, the impact loading rate, the left right balance metrics that can quantify the impact of shoes, but then helping visualize that in action by using that stride footpath analysis, influence seeing how that foot moves with the help of each shoe. That can really help confirm your feelings as well and add a different perspective on your shoe selection. And then point number three here is make those data-driven decisions. So after we've kind of visualized, then we can move into those metrics and then see, for example, shoe lifespan, being able to see, this shoe was, advantageous at the start of its lifespan, but after 300, 400, 500 miles, maybe it's time to move on to a different shoe, replace this shoe. That's through the long-term tracking there, understanding, how a shoe's lifespan progresses. Um, the other different things is being able to observe that leg spring stiffness. If I have the best leg spring stiffness in the shoe, that can be a data driven decision I make. What shoe has the lowest impact loading rate, that can help make me informed decisions on you know possibly the elevated injury risk of wearing a certain shoe if the impact loading rate is higher and I'm absorbing more force. So being able to combine all these different metrics, how a metric changes over the course of a shoe's lifespan, seeing how you recycle energy, and then the impact loading rate. This can help you make those data-driven decisions to determine which shoe is going to perform best for you. So let's dive specifically into the test here. So we're going to be talking about the three different shoes Luis used for his test here. So shoe number one, Nike Zoom X Vaporfly Next Percent 3. We're going to be, that is referred to as the Vaporfly 3 in the video and in this presentation. The shoe number two here was the Next Percent, the Nike Zoom X Vaporfly Next Percent. That's referred to as the Vaporfly 2 in the video. And then shoe number three, and that is the Puma Fast R Nitro. So those are the three different shoes Luis wanted to bring in and test in the lab. So the test protocol, we designed a kind of a shorter test protocol for this test, and of course, you might want to tailor this test protocol based on your own needs. We did a very short test here, 2 times 2 minutes in each shoe, so that only amounts to around 12 minutes of kind of those extended running durations. Then we also did 3 times 30-second strides at the end with increasing intensity. So we did a very short test for this video because we just wanted to look at the biomechanics of each shoe. But for example, if you wanted to track fatigue patterns in each shoe, and if you're using Stryd for every run, then um, you're going to have in the field test, and then also let's say you do some treadmill running or some track running is kind of your more controlled test, or just even part of a normal workout. You might have more data as part of your test or part of your workouts, and that could be fine too. We just kept it very short today because we just want to look at the biomechanical differences, and you only need a short test to determine that. So let's talk about the results here. What did we learn from these results? So we comprehensively looked at each shoe using the stride metrics, the leg spring stiffness, that impact loading rate, and then the Stryd Footpath as well. And we kind of use this Vaporfly 3 as a point of reference. And Luis going into the test, we wanted to use this as the point of reference because he felt like this is the least performance shoe. This isn't his first choice for either speed workouts or even a marathon. Luis mentioned this shoe was the least springy, and we did see the data reflect this. So kind of our baseline leg spring stiffness here was a value of 8 and an impact loading rate of 88. Then also we kind of use the footpath here to also act as our kind of our baseline that we compare the other shoes against in terms of what shoe would have the most advantageous running characteristics. So shoe number two here was the Vaporfly 2, and Luis mentioned this was his preferred marathon shoe, and we immediately saw that reflected in the data during this test. So just selecting that result there as part of the Stryd Footpath graph and in the Power Center view, we did see the shoe had higher leg spring stiffness values, and typically it is better to have that higher leg spring stiffness because that means energy is being recycled at a higher rate. LSS has been shown to correlate with higher running economy. And then not only did it have the higher leg spring stiffness, but also that advantage of the lower impact loading rate. So from just the metric point of view that we talked about earlier, this shoe had the higher leg spring stiffness and the lower impact loading rate. So this means energy is being recycled at a higher rate, and the energy is, forces are being absorbed at a lower rate. So both of those are definitely advantageous, of course, for any run, but also especially for those longer distances such as marathon. And then as we moved into that Stryd Footpath view, comparing the Stryd Footpath view from the Vaporfly 2 versus that Vaporfly 3, it also had that more efficient heel recovery. And the heel recovery is something we're going to be talking about here, where when you have that more efficient heel recovery, that's good for those backside mechanics. It means the foot can move back in front of the body without excessive, non-propulsive backside motion. Um, this kind of means probably a more good tall running posture, a stable pelvis, connected torso. And when you're running tall and not excessively leaning, that's usually connected with that more efficient heel recovery. So, um, that's a pattern we observed across those shoes there. So then moving into the Puma Fast R. And the Fast R is a shoe that Luis mentioned feels similar to a track spike. And if you ever run in track spikes before, it definitely feels faster. It feels like you're swinging the leg through faster. It supports kind of those higher intensity runs. And the data also supported this, where that Puma Fast R had an even more efficient heel recovery, and also allowed more kind of that closer ground contact time, where as any sprinter knows, when that foot's swinging through, you're wanting that to land right underneath the body there for that closer ground contact time, kind of support those higher paces. And we saw that, of course, in the 2 x 2 minute test, which is just a touch slower than Luis's marathon intensity, and also those faster strides, where it had that even more efficient heel recovery and that closer ground contact time and those more advantageous running characteristics. So it definitely backed up Luis's feel there with that Puma Fast Arm. So we kind of through that three shoe test, we did identify and kind of confirm Luis's feelings there, that Vaporfly 2 and that Puma Fast R both had advantageous characteristics over that Vaporfly 3. And then moving to the question of, well, if both shoes perform better than the Vaporfly 3, what shoe performed faster best overall? And that's kind of the importance of testing here, because we did see um, each shoe performed better, but that doesn't mean there's one universal shoe that's just better in all conditions. Really want to look at what shoe is best for this condition and what shoe is best for this condition. So in this case, we're looking at what shoe was best for marathon. Can we kind of see why Luis preferred that Vaporfly 2 for marathon, and then why Luis preferred that Puma Fast R for kind of those faster intensities there. And with that Puma Fast R, it did have the even more advantageous heel recovery versus that Vaporfly 2. And we can see that here in the Stryd Footpath graph, where it has that lower backside motion, and it's not kicking through quite as far. It's kind of landing closer underneath the body. And both of those are kind of correlated with that more efficient heel recovery there. So once again, that more efficient heel recovery and that closer ground contact time was visible in that Puma Fast R. And the one difference here across the Vaporfly 2 and that Puma Fast R is the Vaporfly 2 did have a slightly longer stride length, and that can be kind of advantageous for that marathon distance, where if you're being to lengthen your stride length, but still have that great leg spring stiffness and that lower impact loading rate, that can definitely mean that you're taking less strides over the course of a race. So for example, let's say that the Puma Fast R did have maybe just a touch lower impact loading rate, but the stride length was a bit shorter. Um, that means you're going to be taking more strides over the course of race that could cancel out the benefits of that slightly lower impact loading rate there. So um, we did see in the data why Luis would prefer the Vaporfly 2 for the marathon and that Puma Fast R for kind of those faster, high intensity workouts or even shorter race distances and durations. So largely, the shoe test did confirm Luis's feelings, and which is a great thing. Being able to have that data to back up your personal feelings and kind of quantify, exactly how much better one shoe is versus another can be really critical. So now the question is, how can you perform your own shoe test at home? And you could follow a protocol very similar to Luis if you just wanted to kind of do the same biomechanical test with your Stryd Duo. Of course, we did only use Stryd Duo. We didn't use any of the metabolic or lactate testing. So if you do have a Stryd Duo, you can perform basically the same test at home. And that first key is part of your test is identify what you want to learn from the test. So is this something you want to be looking at? Injury risk management, saying, I want to just have strictly a lower impact loading rate. Well, then that's kind of a test you might want to be doing outside on kind of your long runs, being to observe, after 1 or 2 hours, is that shoe performing consistently at that higher impact loading rate on the surfaces I commonly like to run at, on the paces I commonly run at for my long runs, where I'm accumulating that biggest RSS score, that biggest LBSS score for the week. If you want to you look purely at shoe efficiency and form changes, then that might suit a better kind of that shorter test, either in a lab or on a treadmill or on a track. Um, so first, that's first key is identify what you want to learn from the test. Is it more on the injury risk side, or is it more on kind of the efficiency performance side? And that's kind of going to determine the environment you're running in, the surface you're going to be running in, and the intensities you're going to be running at. And then once you determine that, then you can really start diving in and nuts and bolts wise look at that testing protocol and decide, am I going to be running on the track? Am I going to be running on the treadmill? Am I going to be running out on the road or kind of a softer surface? Do I need to be doing a longer test where I'm running for multiple hours during a long run, or can I be doing a shorter test where I'm only running for 2 minutes at kind of that higher intensity? So, being able to write down that testing protocol and having that ahead of time can really help solidify your results and really help you, really zoom in on the data you're going to be wanting to look at after the test. And then that third and final thing is identify what shoes you want to test. Are you going to be looking at, for example, an older pair of shoes you've been running it in for a while, and that's kind of your baseline, and then maybe you've picked up a few new pairs of shoes and say, okay, this shoe looks like it has a great cushion. Um, it's going to be, have those characteristics I'm going to want for that long run. It's going to feel good for that long run. Is this a shoe that's, for example, super springy? Is it a super shoe that, um, a new super shoe you want to test on and see if that performs better for your kind of race pace intensities? So, being able to select those shoes you're going to want to be testing, and looking at what shoes going to be your baseline and see what metrics are going to be, more performant and identify that performance. So now it's time to go out and do the test. So as I mentioned, that controlled environment is really critical, whether you're on a treadmill, track, or another location such as a looped road, or let's say it's a loop around the lake on a sidewalk that can be very flat oftentimes. So being able to go out and do that test in a controlled environment is really critical to kind of remove external factors such as grade percentage or surface condition, which can really add in other uncontrolled variables and really pollute the results and make it harder to get those key insights you want. And then finally, diving into the data. So you saw as part of this test, we looked at, of course, the metrics. The metrics are so key to be looking at, that leg spring stiffness, that impact loading rate, vertical oscillation, and ground contact time, and then the balance metrics that go along with those that can help quantify things, and then visualizing performance with that stride footpath and saying, okay, was my foot moving the way I expected to? Was it back kicking the way I expected to? How did it impact kind of my stride on the front side? Um, diving into that data and then looking at the results will help you identify what shoe is most performant and whether it aligns with your personal feeling. So if you want to watch the full test, this is available on Luis Orta's YouTube channel. So head over to YouTube, type in Luis Orta, and you're going to see this is a recent video here back in the lab testing Stryd's new footpath to compare my favorite shoes, Alpha Fly, Puma Fast are there. So go check out that full video. It's pretty awesome, and a video we're super proud of. So we will be taking questions. If you have any questions, drop them into the chat and I'll answer them here. We haven't received any questions yet, so I'm going to keep moving forward on a few different things. But if you have any questions or if you think of any, type them in the chat, whether you're on YouTube or X or Facebook, and I will answer those. So Stryd Duo, if you want to start conducting your own shoe testing, embark on your own running metrics journey, we do have Stryd Duo available. You can head over to stryd.com/store and check out the Stryd Duo and get access to, of course, the Stryd Duo plus the Stryd membership to be looking at your balance metrics via the Stryd Duo, and then that footpath via the Stryd membership. And upgrading that Stryd membership, let's say you already have Stryd Duo, you want to start checking out your footpath data, you can upgrade to the Stryd membership today on the Stryd mobile app and on Power Center. So we do have one question here asking from Kata Tone IQ, different shoes have different lacing patterns, shoe angles, and shapes. How much does the slightly different mounting of the Stryd impact power pace data from the Stryd? And the answer to this is Stryd's is extremely robust to different placements, and it's going to report different. It's going to report very accurate metrics whether you place Stryd in different locations. So this shouldn't be that much of a concern. It's not going to, placement is going to have very little to no impact on your data because Stryd can kind of work those differences out internally. It's sensitive to that, and it's going to be able to identify that, kind of remove that impact. It's going to be extremely robust. So it's not critical to place it in exactly the same location. You shouldn't be concerned, oh, I screwed the placement up. That means my data is invalid. That's not going to be the case. Of course, we do recommend to kind of do the best you can. You don't want to place Stryd in, wildly different locations or place Stryd extremely loose on one shoe versus another. You do want to kind of, help Stryd out and kind of place in that consistent anatomical location the best you can. But of course, if it's slightly different, you don't have to worry about that at all. That's not going to have any meaningful impact on your data or your results or any meaningful impact on training. So, of course, do the best you can. But if you don't get it perfect, don't worry about it. Recently, we sponsored Clayton Young as part of his build up to the Olympic marathon. We published the first part of our blog series at blog.stryd.com on how Stryd, kind of tells the story of Clayton's ninth place finish at the Olympics. It was an incredible performance, an incredible job pacing, talking about how, Stryd kind of informed Clayton's performance leading up to the race, and how Clayton nailed those power targets on the flats and the very challenging uphills and downhills on the course. So if you want to see how Stryd is used at the elite levels of running and how those same insights can kind of filter down to you, I recommend to check out blog.stryd.com. We do have a new coaching program. So if you're a coach or you have a running coach and you want them to get more out of Stryd, definitely head over to coach.stryd.com, and we have an incredible program there with some great benefits for coaching certification, perks and benefits, private coaches community, and live Q&A sessions. If you want more content from the Stryd team, subscribe to the Stryd YouTube channel. Head over to YouTube, search for Stryd, and subscribe there. We have lots of great videos coming up from the Stryd Performance Lab that I just talked about, and further educational YouTube videos. So that's all I have for today's presentation. I want to thank everyone for joining me, and I'll